We were just having a good time. And he like, y'all know how much this mean to me, y'all can't.
The father, husband, brother, and friend, Billy Brightman. But to Cynthia Willis,
that's my firstborn.
A mama's boy.
I always gonna have memories of my son, because that's my son, that's my boy.
Now knowing that this memory is the last, because for the past 25 years, Cynthia says Billy worked as manager at this rent-a-tire in Oak Cliff.
I'm telling y'all, he got along with everybody. Everybody loved BJ, because he was just BJ.
But on Monday afternoon, police responded to the shop for a shooting.
Marlon Lawrence walked up behind his manager at the rent-a-tire shop in Dallas and fired a bullet into his back. As Billy Brightman collapsed at the counter, Lawrence aimed at his face and pulled the trigger again. Surveillance cameras captured the entire execution. Lawrence is 21, Brightman was 42. They worked together at the tire shop on Camp Wisdom Road. The motive? Police still don't know. Lawrence admitted everything to detectives, confessed to the shooting without hesitation, but he couldn't explain why. The evidence is overwhelming. The confession, the surveillance footage, the weapon. But the answer to the most important question, why would a young employee execute his boss in cold blood during a normal workday, remains a complete mystery. Subscribe to Crazy Crime Lures to find out. Billy Brightman wasn't just a manager. He was the manager at Rent-A-Tire Raw Wheels and Tires on Camp Wisdom Road in southern Dallas. 25 years. That's how long he'd worked there. A quarter of a century building that business, serving customers, managing employees who came and went. He was a husband, a father to 2 children. His mother described him as someone who wasn't confrontational, the type who avoided conflict, not someone who sought it out.
I'm telling y'all, he got along with everybody. Everybody loved BJ, because he was just BJ.
James Luck had known Billy for more than 20 years. They were the kind of friends where you check in regularly, where you stop by each other's workplaces just to say hello.
145, 150, and that's when I start seeing like the crime scene.
On December 1st, Luck spoke with Billy early that morning. Everything was normal, just another Monday. Luck even planned to swing by the shop later that day. What Luck didn't know was that by the time he arrived at Rent-A-Tire around 1:45 that afternoon, crime scene tape would be surrounding the building, police cars everywhere, his friend already gone. Luck described Billy as driven, generous, and deeply protective of the people around him. You could never picture that actually happening, not to BJ, Luck told reporters. Billy used to tell him regularly, "Be safe out there." It was his way of showing he cared. Now those words haunt Luck. Marlon Lawrence was 21 years old. He worked as a tire technician at the same Rent-A-Tire shop where Billy managed. That was his job, changing tires, working under Billy's supervision, taking direction from the man he would eventually kill. What was going on in Lawrence's life? Public records don't reveal much about his background before December 1st. No detailed employment history has been made public. No interviews with family members. No social media statements explaining who he was or what led him to this point. What we do know is this. Lawrence had access to a firearm, a Ruger handgun. He brought it to work that day, or had it accessible at the workplace. That fact alone raises questions. Why does a tire technician need a gun at work? The relationship between Lawrence and Billy was straightforward on the surface, employee and manager. Lawrence worked under Billy's authority. Billy gave instructions. Lawrence followed them, or was supposed to. According to Billy's mother, Billy had just given Lawrence instructions before the shooting happened. Here's what makes this case so disturbing. There's no documented history of conflict between them. No complaints filed, no disciplinary actions, no witnesses reporting arguments or tension. If there were warning signs, nobody saw them. Lawrence had no known prior violent criminal history. This wasn't someone with a pattern of workplace violence or assault charges. He was a young man working a job, taking orders from his boss, going through what should have been a routine Monday. So what changed? What makes a 21-year-old retrieve a weapon and execute the man who supervised him? How Lawrence and Billy first met isn't documented in public records. What we know is they were connected through work, Lawrence as a technician, Billy as his manager. It was a professional relationship built on the hierarchy of a tire shop. The nature of their daily interactions remains largely unknown. Did they talk beyond work instructions? Were they friendly or strictly professional? Did Lawrence resent taking orders from Billy, or was he content with the arrangement? Nobody has publicly answered these questions. In the days and weeks leading up to December 1st, there's no documented evidence of conflict. On the surface, it appeared to be a normal working relationship. December 1st, 2024, started like any other day at the Rent-A tire shop. The business opened. Customers came in. Work began. Billy was at the front counter handling transactions, paperwork, whatever managers do when they're not actively supervising the service bays. Lawrence was there too, working, moving through the shop. At some point during the day, Billy gave him instructions. We know this because Billy's mother was told this detail by police or witnesses. What were those instructions? Were they routine or unusual? Did Lawrence object or did he seem to accept them? We don't know. But something shifted. Whether it was those specific instructions or something completely unrelated, Lawrence made a decision. He decided Billy Brightman needed to die. What happens in someone's mind when they cross that line? When they go from following workplace instructions to planning murder? There's no gradual buildup documented here. No escalating argument. No shouting match. Just a decision made in silence. Lawrence left wherever he was in the shop. He went to retrieve his Ruger handgun. Was it in his car? In a locker? In a bag? The exact location hasn't been made public, but he knew where it was. He loaded it, or it was already loaded. Either way, he now held a lethal weapon he could have left. Could have walked out of the shop, could have quit his job, driven away, never come back. Nobody was stopping him from leaving. But Lawrence didn't leave. He walked back into the shop, back toward Billy, back toward the front counter where his manager stood, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Did anyone see Lawrence return with the gun? Did any other employees notice? The shop had other workers. Someone called 911 after the shooting, which means at least one other person was present. But there's no public account of anyone trying to stop Lawrence or warning Billy. Billy stood at the counter, working, managing. He had no reason to turn around and look behind him. No reason to think his life was about to end. Lawrence approached from behind, gun in hand, finger on the trigger. This was the moment, the point of no return. He could have stopped, could have put the gun down, could have walked away. He didn't. Lawrence raised the gun. Billy's back was to him, unaware, defenseless, focused on whatever task was in front of him at that counter. Lawrence fired. The bullet hit Billy in the back. The impact was immediate. Billy's body reacted to the trauma muscles, nerves, shock. He started to collapse. His legs gave out. He fell forward, toward the counter, toward the floor. But Lawrence wasn't finished. As Billy went down, Lawrence adjusted his aim. He pointed the gun at Billy's face, at close range, point blank, and he fired again. The second bullet struck Billy in the face. The damage was catastrophic. 2 shots, 2 different points of impact, both lethal. Billy collapsed completely. He was on the floor now, bleeding, dying. The injuries were too severe. There would be no coming back from this. The entire incident from the first shot to Billy hitting the ground took seconds. That's all the time it took to end a 42-year-old man's life. Somewhere in the shop, another employee heard the shots. 2 gunshots in an enclosed space are unmistakable. Loud, sharp, terrifying. You don't mistake that sound for anything else. The employee didn't see the shooting happen. If they had, maybe they could have intervened, screamed a warning, done something. But they heard it, and they knew immediately something catastrophic had just occurred. What do you do in that moment? Your coworker just shot your manager. The shooter is still there, still armed. Do you run, hide, confront him? The employee called 911. That was the move. Get help, get police, get paramedics. Maybe Billy could be saved. Maybe this wasn't as bad as it sounded, but it was worse. The 911 call went out. Shots fired. Man down. Rent a tire shop on Camp Wisdom Road. Multiple units dispatched. Dallas Fire Rescue rolling. Police en route. Emergency responders arrived fast. Dallas is a major city. Response times are usually quick. They entered the shop and found Billy on the floor. Blood. Trauma. 2 gunshot wounds. 1 to the back, 1 to the face. Paramedics assessed him immediately. They knew. You don't survive injuries like that, but they had to try. They loaded Billy onto a stretcher, started life-saving measures, rushed him to a nearby hospital. But Billy Brightman was already gone. The bullets had done their job. There was no saving him, no miracle surgery, no last-minute intervention. At the hospital, doctors pronounced him dead. A husband, a father of two, a man who'd worked at the same shop for a quarter of a century. Dead because a 21-year-old employee decided to bring a gun to work and use it. Back at the shop, police secured the scene. Crime scene tape went up. The building was now evidence. Every inch of that shop mattered. Where Lawrence stood, where Billy fell, shell casings, blood spatter, the surveillance cameras that recorded everything. Other businesses nearby watched the chaos unfold. Police cars, ambulances, investigators swarming the property. Word spread fast. Something terrible had happened at the tire shop. James Luck arrived around 1:45. He'd planned to stop by and say hello. Instead, he saw crime scene tape and officers everywhere. He didn't know yet. Didn't know his friend was already dead. Didn't know their morning conversation would be their last. Inside the shop, the Ruger handgun was recovered. Lawrence's weapon, the murder weapon. It would be tagged, photographed, tested. Ballistics would confirm what everyone already knew: this gun fired the bullets that killed Billy Brightman. A sign went up on the shop door the next day. Sorry for the inconvenience. Our store is currently closed. Inconvenience. As if this were a plumbing issue or a power outage. The store was closed because the manager was murdered, because blood stained the floor, because nobody could work there anymore, not after what happened. Dallas police homicide detectives took over the case immediately. This wasn't a mystery about who killed Billy Brightman. Lawrence was identified right away. Witnesses knew he worked there. The surveillance footage showed everything. But detectives needed to understand why. They needed a confession. They needed Lawrence to explain himself. Lawrence was taken to Dallas Police Headquarters for questioning. He wasn't injured, wasn't trying to flee. He was in custody, and now he had to answer for what he'd done. Detective C. Fehrenbach led the interrogation. The goal was simple: get Lawrence talking, get him to explain what happened from his perspective, let him incriminate himself with his own words. And Lawrence talked. He didn't lawyer up immediately, didn't refuse to speak. He sat down with detectives and admitted everything. No elaborate lies, no claims of self-defense, no story about Billy attacking him first. Just the truth. According to the arrest affidavit, Lawrence confessed to the shooting. He told detectives he approached Billy from behind at the front counter. He admitted firing the first shot into Billy's back. He admitted firing the second shot into Billy's face as Billy fell. Why? That's the question detectives needed answered. What was the motive? Lawrence's answer, or lack of one, is what makes this case so baffling. Public records don't reveal any specific reason Lawrence gave to police. No claims of abuse, no allegations of mistreatment, no story about Billy threatening him or his family. Nothing that would even remotely justify or explain murder. Billy's mother said police told her that Billy had just given Lawrence instructions before the shooting. That's it. A workplace instruction. The kind of thing that happens dozens of times a day between managers and employees. And somehow, that ended in murder. But was it really about the instructions? Or was there something deeper that Lawrence couldn't or wouldn't articulate? The physical evidence was overwhelming. Detectives collected the Ruger handgun used in the shooting. They recovered spent shell casings from the floor, 2 of them, matching the 2 shots fired. They documented the blood evidence, the positions where Billy fell, the trajectory of the bullets. The surveillance footage was critical. Multiple cameras in the shop captured the shooting from different angles. Detectives could watch Lawrence approach Billy, watch him raise the gun, watch him fire twice, watch Billy collapse. There was no ambiguity, no question about what happened. Forensic analysis would follow. Ballistics testing confirmed the bullets came from Lawrence's Ruger. Gunshot residue testing on Lawrence's hands would have shown he'd recently fired a weapon. His clothing would have been collected as evidence: any blood spatter, any gunpowder residue, anything that placed him at the scene in the act of shooting. The employee who called 911 gave a statement to police. They confirmed hearing the shots, confirmed seeing Billy on the floor, confirmed Lawrence was the only other person near Billy when it happened. Their testimony aligned perfectly with the physical evidence and the surveillance footage. Detectives also interviewed other employees who may have been present that day. Did anyone see tension between Lawrence and Billy earlier? Did anyone overhear an argument? Did Lawrence seem agitated or upset before the shooting? If those interviews revealed anything significant, it hasn't been made public. No reports of Lawrence acting strangely. No warnings that he was dangerous. No prior incidents that should have raised red flags. Investigators pulled Lawrence's background. Criminal history, any priors, any history of violence or weapons charges, anything that would indicate he was capable of murder. Nothing has been publicly disclosed that suggests Lawrence had a violent past. This appears to be his first known violent offense. A 21-year-old with no documented history of hurting anyone, who suddenly executed his boss at work. The autopsy on Billy's body confirmed what paramedics already knew. 2 gunshot wounds, one to the back, one to the face. Either could have been fatal on its own. Together, they guaranteed Billy had no chance of survival. The medical examiner's report would detail the exact path of each bullet, the organs damaged, the cause of death. But the conclusion was never in doubt. Homicide by gunshot. Detectives compiled everything into an arrest affidavit. Within hours, the Dallas County District Attorney's Office reviewed the case. The decision was immediate. Charge Marlon Lawrence with murder. Marlon Lawrence was formally charged with murder. In Texas, murder is a first-degree felony, carrying a potential sentence of 5 to 99 years in prison, or life. That's what Lawrence was facing decades behind bars, potentially the rest of his life. He was booked into the Dallas County Jail on December 1st, the same day he killed Billy. No bond was immediately set, meaning Lawrence would remain in custody until a judge determined whether he could be released pre-trial and how much that release would cost. His first court appearance came shortly after his arrest. This is where a judge reads the charges, ensures the defendant understands what they're accused of, and sets bond if appropriate. Lawrence appeared before the judge. The charge was read, murder. The judge had to weigh whether Lawrence posed a flight risk or a danger to the community. The answer was obvious. Lawrence had just executed his boss in cold blood for no apparent reason. He was absolutely a danger. And given the severity of the charge and the strength of the evidence, he was also a flight risk facing life in prison. Is motivation enough to run? The judge set bond, but the amount hasn't been widely publicized. In murder cases, bond is often set extraordinarily high, hundreds of thousands, or even $1 million specifically to keep the defendant in custody. It's unlikely Lawrence could afford whatever amount was set. As of now, Lawrence remains in Dallas County Jail awaiting trial. He's been in custody since December 1st. His days are spent in a cell, waiting for his case to move through the legal system. What goes through his mind? Does he regret it? Does he understand the magnitude of what he's done? Or is he still unable to explain why he did it? The prosecution's case is straightforward. They have video evidence of Lawrence shooting Billy. They have his confession. They have the murder weapon. They have forensic evidence tying Lawrence to the scene and the crime. There's no question about guilt. The only question is sentencing. Will Lawrence's defense attorney argue for a lesser charge? Try to negotiate a plea deal? Claim diminished capacity or some form of mental illness? Those are the only real options when the evidence is this strong. A plea deal would mean Lawrence admits guilt in exchange for a specific sentence, perhaps avoiding life in prison, in favor of a fixed term like 30 or 40 years. It would spare Billy's family the trauma of a trial. It would give them closure faster. But will Lawrence take a deal? Or will he force this to trial, making Billy's family relive the horror in a courtroom? If the case goes to trial, the prosecution will present the surveillance footage to the jury. They'll play Lawrence's confession. They'll call the employee who heard the shots. They'll present the forensic evidence. And they'll ask the jury to return a guilty verdict. The defense will have almost nothing to work with. They can't dispute the facts Lawrence killed Billy, and there's video proof. Their only hope is to humanize Lawrence, argue for leniency, or claim some mitigating factor that explains his actions. But what could that factor possibly be? Lawrence himself couldn't explain why he did it. How can a defense attorney explain it to a jury? Billy's family will likely attend every court hearing. His wife, his 2 children, his mother, James Luck, his friend of 20 years. They'll sit in that courtroom and watch the man who killed Billy try to defend himself. What do you say to a killer who stole someone you love for no reason? Victim impact statements will come at sentencing, assuming there's a conviction. Billy's family will have the chance to address the court, to tell the judge what Billy's death has cost them. The holidays without him, the milestones he'll miss, the future that was stolen. The judge will weigh the evidence, the family statements, and the law. Texas doesn't have the death penalty for all murders, only capital murder, which requires specific aggravating factors like killing a police officer or a child, or murder during another felony. This case likely doesn't meet that standard. So Lawrence is looking at years, decades, possibly life, and Billy's family is looking at a lifetime without him. The trial date hasn't been widely publicized yet. These cases take time, months or even years to wind through the system. Pre-trial motions, discovery, negotiations. The wheels of justice turn slowly. But one thing is certain, no matter what happens in that courtroom, no matter what sentence Lawrence receives, Billy Brightman isn't coming back. His family will never get justice in the truest sense, because justice would mean Billy walking through their door again. And that's impossible. Did something happen between them that nobody witnessed? Was there a history we don't know about? Was Lawrence dealing with mental health issues that weren't apparent? Was there pressure in his life that built up and exploded in the worst possible way? And unless he provides more information during trial or sentencing, the why will remain a mystery. Billy's legacy isn't the way he died, it's the years he spent showing up, doing his job, being a husband and father and friend. That's what his family wants people to remember. Not the violence, not the randomness of his death, but the man he was. The case will eventually conclude. Lawrence will be sentenced. The legal chapter will close. But for Billy's family, there's no closure. There's no moving on. There's only learning to live with the loss. And for the rest of us, there's a reminder. Violence can come from anywhere, at any time, from anyone. Even from people who seem normal, even at work, even when there's no reason. What do you think could have been done to prevent this tragedy? Let us know in the comments below. Marlon Lawrence took Billy Brightman's life in seconds, but the impact of those seconds will last forever. A family destroyed, a community shaken, and a question that may never be answered. Why? The case continues. The pain endures, and Billy Brightman's absence is felt every single day.